I think it's possible that BTK does in fact have another victim. Cindy Kinney was abducted from a laundromat apparently, and her remains have yet to be actually found or located in any capacity. Now, one thing about this case, if it were to fit into the list of crimes that BTK has committed, this would be the only crime where it was a kidnapping. This would be the sole crime where that was the case. Now, he did write about having a potential fantasy he wanted to act on of kidnapping a person. In other writings, he writes about a laundromat perhaps being a great place to troll for a victim in this manner. Now, given that this is not a very far location, however, it makes you think when you kind of put everything else together about that he himself has said. So you have journal entry from 1976 called Bad Wash Day, and he has this listed as a project. Now, this was written in a book or sort of compilation of crimes he's committed, and interesting thing about it is there was actually 13 chapters that were supposed to be put through this entire thing once it was finished, from what we can see anyway. I guess based on because everything once he was arrested, that was the stop of any sort of documentation on his part and everything, obviously. But that is interesting to think. If there was 13 chapters and supposedly each individual one is a different project, assuming each individual project is actually a homicide, um, it would make sense that this could potentially be one. Now, you also have the crossword puzzle that was sent to the news station back in 2004. Now, apparently, they have looked at this again and they have found the words Cindy, Kinney, laundry, and Pahuska. I'll be honest, I looked at it, assuming this is a legit, uh, photograph of the word search that was sent. I didn't find it. Perhaps it is there, though. I'm going to put it in here. I hope you can take a look at it and perhaps you can find it. I personally didn't find it. Now, uh, a detective spoke with him in his at the prison he's held at, and he had offered up to tell him about one of the fantasies he might have had, and he said that this fantasy would be to kidnap a girl from a laundromat. So when you put all of that together, it does seem like he wants to lead you in that direction. Clearly, he is somebody that he is somebody that obviously has a history of playing with the police, trying to manipulate public perception and things of that nature. However, there's a few things that kind of seem a little weird about this. See, BTK, I think, in my opinion, he says he didn't want to get caught and everything, but I don't know. I always thought maybe he kind of did. I kind of like based on the way he confessed in court and everything. Like it didn't come off to me it was like he was accepting an award. He seemed very forthcoming and very happy to talk about everything he had done. Um, Personally, I think he got off more on being BTK, doing everything BTK did, getting caught, and then being able to say it was me the whole time. I think he enjoyed that more than if he just did it and it was just BTK, the big secret, and no one knows it was you. I genuinely feel like he wanted to. I feel like he wanted his name to actually be tied to this in the end. Personally, he says he was going to ride off into the sunset, but I don't know. It seemed he seems a little too proud of what he did. Um, when the three individuals in October of 1974 were, you know, thought to perhaps be suspects in the crime, and then he leaves the note and everything in the library. It's like I don't know. I think it seemed like he very much wanted the narrative to stay that BTK was doing this, BTK was doing that, And then I feel like he wanted his name to come out in the end, and he would be, revealed as this, you know, monster or whatever. Some interesting things about how this would fit into the timeline. He kills the Oteros, 1974. That would be Joseph, Julie, Joey, and Josie Otero. Then we have Catherine Bright in 1974. Then you have Shirley Vian in 1977. Nancy Fox, also 1977. Maureen Hedge, 1985. Vicky Wegerly, 86. And then Dolores Davis in 91. Now, looking at all of these dates, this would fall between his second and his third offense. This would be between Catherine Bright and Shirley Vian. Now, I wanted to look a little more into how that would play out, how that would actually play out if you were to look at these individual things. Now, Catherine Bright, this offense was very messy. In my opinion, this was the crime he committed where he was the most likely to be caught. I think he was genuinely the most likely to get caught with this crime. The Otero family murders, also very brash, rather impulsive, honestly. But Catherine Bright, almost even worse so, almost even more impulsive. He breaks in and waits, unexpectedly is presented with Catherine Bright and her brother Kevin. He also brought 3 means of executing these individuals. He has a gun, he has a knife, and he has the ability to strangle. And he attempts to use or uses all of these facets at different times. He has the gun where he shoots Kevin. He's expecting him to die from this. He doesn't. He survives, which is one of the big reasons why this is one of the easiest ways for him to get caught. Because this is the only one where you have an immediate victim of the crime running from the scene, while it's basically happening. He attempts to strangle Catherine, and for whatever reason, it was taking too long, or it was taking too long, or it wasn't working, whatever. And he uses the knife he has, and he stabs her in the abdomen. In addition to that, Catherine's also not dead at the scene. Catherine is taken to the hospital, still alive, has surgeries performed on her, and she dies in surgery. So you have Kevin, who literally survived, and you had Catherine, who was still alive at the point that the police got there. So, from the perspective of entering the house to execute one person, you basically, as far as up to the point where the police actually arrived, you were presented with 2 people, and you effectively failed to execute both of them. What if Catherine was able to give a great description of it, you know? And then Kevin, what if he was able to? There was just so many loose ends with this one that I feel like this was the one he was most likely to get potentially caught from. The next confirmed crime would be Shirley Vian. This one was also remarkably just brash and impulsive. He went to this hydraulic street to attack a woman named Cheryl. She literally just wasn't home. And because of that, he decided to go to another house on Hydraulic Street. The thing about that, just to go to another house on the same street without any like you don't know what's going, like you don't know what's going on, like but he goes down the street and approaches one of Shirley's children, pulls out, this is another huge mistake, in my opinion. He pulls out a picture of his own wife and his own son and asks the kid if he had seen them. He says no. And then he returns later, disguised as a detective, gains entry into the house, turns off the TV, and then at gunpoint forces the children into the bathroom and Shirley into the bedroom. So I feel like this basically just wasn't planned either, because you just went to another house and decided, okay, there's a mom there. Um, Despite there being three other, kids at this house, who knows what could have happened with that? Maybe like there was not a whole lot of planning really put in place with this, I don't think. And I think it was carried out very differently than Catherine Bright, but I wanted to look at how the murder of Cindy would fit in between these two. So, from his perspective, this would mean he committed a very messy and not incredibly well thought out or planned crime. Um, almost left a very, very competent witness. Had the individual escape from the actual scene of the crime during the commission of said crime. Now, what's your next? What do you think his next step would be from that? Would his next step be to try something completely different because this one went horribly? Perhaps. Now that I'm actually kind of looking at it like this, you have Otero's, then you have Catherine Bright, and then surely you have him impersonating to gain entry. So that's different. You have, so then, I mean, that would mean he did a very poorly executed crime and then tried two new things. And, well, it also makes you think, how much was he worried about getting caught? After the killing of Nancy Fox, he calls the police himself. He sends things to the news, to the actual local news and stuff. And it makes you think how worried he truly was about getting caught. But I don't know. From his perspective though, what difference would it what does he necessarily gain from not necessarily confessing that, like why would you, what exactly would be the motivation to completely confess to 10 homicides, but then completely just neglect to mention any of the others? Maybe he wants, I don't know. Well, I guess perhaps you can keep leverage, with police. You have some sort of valuable, information to the police. So perhaps, I don't know. Perhaps there's that. There's the potential mind games and stuff you could play with knowing you have this information and only leaving breadcrumbs for detectives and investigators. Um, but I feel like the only real motivation to not fully just confessing would be just manipulation, mind games, and power trip. There's not really any other reason for him to withhold it. He's like, in a legal sense, it's like you're getting 10 life sentences. If we're being completely real, you're going to spend the remainder of your living life in prison. So it's not like he's going to get out. It isn't like he's going to get out if he doesn't, say this. So it's like, it kind of makes you think in that way. And then also, like, what are the, maybe it is also technically possible that you just hear about another crime somewhere else that's unsolved, and then you write about, write little clues and hints pointing to, like, hey, maybe you did it, but since there's no real tangible evidence, you'll never be prosecuted for it, but you'll drive a whole bunch of suspicion and speculation about said offense. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we really don't know. But it does seem like it would make a little bit of sense that after the execution of the Catherine Bright case, that he would try something new twice, potentially. This would also be June of 1976, the Cindy Kinney case. So that would be Otero's and Catherine Bright in 1974. And then in 1976, Cindy Kinney. And then Shirley Vian, Nancy Fox in 77. So it does go along with the pattern of uh, frequent crimes being committed here. But I think it's just a lot to sort of speculate on there. I think let me know what you guys have thinking about this.